Seit einigen Jahren wohnt am Rande der Rheingau-Gemeinde Hallgarten, in der Nachbarschaft anderer bekannter Künstler, eine junge Opernsängerin, die von sich sagen kann, die höchste Stufe internationalen Ruhms erreicht zu haben. Anneliese Rothenberger.
Well, today marks 16 years without the presence of this extraordinary artist. My name is Diego Bosch, and I run this channel to preserve her legacy. And I started with this very rare footage that maybe most of the people nowadays haven't seen, and then I will upload completely, of course, in the future. It's a very hard video to make. She passed away 16 years ago in Switzerland, Musterlingen Hospital. Here you can see the pictures. When you see these pictures and then you hear the next excerpt, I'm going to put now. Yes, again, looks very unfair. Such a great talent. It's passing away in such a cold place, like that hospital. There's a lot of secrecy. I just hope she didn't suffer too much. They said that it was a brief disease and a brief illness, but I have no more information. I hope she was not alone. I don't know what happened with her in the last years. She always had no kids, or obviously, but I don't know. I just hope she was not left there alone, and I just hope she didn't suffer. I really hope that she did, because I think she didn't deserve that. For me, she was the ambassador of an era that is completely gone now. She was the ambassador of the German high culture, of the German of the Bildung, a Germany that believed in his own root, a country that contributed enormously to science, philosophy, art, and especially music, a word that hardly can be understood by the young from today, because they live in a completely different world, in the world of globalized culture, which is a culture of very little content, very artificial and very foolish roots. But that's the topic of another interesting video. However, let's discuss about other interesting things that I've discovered. Because one thing is how she is seen nowadays, and a completely different thing is how she was seen in her time, when at her prime, when she was active singer. And I could got this book, bought this book. It cost a lot of money, but I'm glad that I could find it, because it confirmed something that I always thought about her. This is Anneliese Rothenberger, written by Wolf Eberhard von Lewinsky. He was a very important German critic of classical music of that time. And yes, a critic that was born at the end of the 20s. And he basically, it's very amazing to discover what I felt when I discovered her. How was this? 50 years, yes, no, like 55 years after. This was written in 1968, and it basically said, if I have to summarize, he confirmed what I felt. I mean, she sang with the soul in her mouth. And she made you believe in the music. She was not only a great voice in terms of poor quality sound, but she had an extraordinary voice in terms of sound, in terms of technique and everything. She was great. But the difference that make her to set apart was that she could make you believe in the music, and it's like that. You believe that there's life behind what she sings, that there's something real. It's not like that typical great name of opera that just look for sound emission to generate a nice sound, but there's no feeling, there's nothing. It's very shallow sound without shallow music, and is the opposite with her. It's nothing. It's very depth, and she had a perfect understanding of the music, of what it represented. It was very depth. This is what this critic said, and that basically what I always have seen when I discovered her, since and way before reading this book, of course. And if I have to summarize, this book said that she was not only a great voice, but she was a great artist, because she could communicate all the emotions, real emotions behind the music. That's why in one interview in the 1990 in Da Capo by August Everding, she said, the most difficult thing when I was approaching the leads was not the technical thing, but to understand what was the text about. The most difficult thing was to understand the text, the content of the lyric part, to make it to sound real, to discover, to find what's the text about. How many opera singers really do that? It's an intellectual process, it's not a musical process, it's an intellectual process. And that's why her art was so rich, because when I used to listen to her, I always thought, here is something special. She doesn't sound like the other. She doesn't sound like the other. And I always was confirming and checking and discovering more and more, and said, damn, this woman make me to believe in what I'm hearing. It's not something, the sound is great, but it's like there's life. And this is why this critic and other critics say during that time on other conductors, and of course, she was seen like one of the greatest. But now it's like she has disappeared. She doesn't appear in the rankings of the best soprano ever. That's poor marketing, and that has not real logical. What people should understand how she was seen during her time. But I confirm that. I always thought that she was extraordinary. I mean, for me, I always, since the beginning, I was fascinated, basically, and I felt something that she was very different to the rest. That's why I ran this channel. I think she deserved that. What else can I say? She was a real artist. As I was saying, the most difficult part was to prepare the content, to understand the text, and to make it sound true, and to make it to convey something real. And if you see it, this is a book that she wrote in Mir klingt ein Lied. She wrote, it's an anthology, a collection of texts that she used to read about music. And if you see the index, it was a very intellectual content. They were intellectual essays written by intellectual people. What is this so important? Because she was an intellectual herself, that music just was an expression of her inner world. That's why it was so rich. Her music was so rich, because her inner world, and many people doesn't know, because they see her making jokes in the television, because in the 70s he made a lot of jokes. He had an extraordinary talent for the humor. I even laugh. I don't understand German, but she makes me laugh, because she was very charismatic, and some of her numbers could be full, and I understand. I don't like, of course, everything that she made in television. I don't want to talk bad things about her, but I'm critic with some things that she did in the television, but I understand them. I understand why she did. I can accept that. I mean, I can accept that. She promoted opera in the television. She obviously had to do some silly numbers. How else? She had to invite pop singers. She had to sing with people of no level compared to her. When I hear her, I think, damn, but this how this woman could mix with such. I'm not gonna use that word, but you understand what I think when I see the Schlager or pop singers, international pop singers. A lot of from other countries, not only from Germany, went to her show. And I don't want to mention them, but yes, when I see it, I say, I cannot believe how this such a great artist could mix with them. The problem is that many people just remember that part, and they forget all their art. She played so many operas. You have the complete list of all the roles that she did till the year of 1968. She was such a giant singer. She lived performance basically, and yes, that's very controversial because you see her and then mixing with low singers and low singers, very low singers and very famous but very low singers in terms of music and everything. And sometimes it annoys me, but what can I? And I cannot understand it. But I understand because well, at least she promoted the opera, and she also made a lot of money. But with her money, for example, after she died, she had a foundation, and she helped new singers, and she helped animals in bad conditions, homeless animals. And so she, at least she used that money from the television for something good, So what can I cannot judge her. I cannot judge her. It can annoy me a little, but I understand and I accept it. But the problem, if you stay with that, and many people just remind her because of that, that's the problem. I know who she was. I know she was not perfect, but I know she was the real Anneliese, the one that took the music serious, reached an unparalleled level. Like the way she conveys the feelings of the music, the way she understands it, the musicality she had. I have heard all the opera singers, and I haven't heard. Maybe the only one is Richard Auber. He also had that expressivity, that sensitivity. Maybe Richard Auber, but he's a male. He's not a soprano. And her expressivity maybe only matched by him. And also one of the important things that this book says, and I completely agree with him, is that she did something innovative. She integrated, she put together the singing with the acting. She wanted to make something very realistic, something that you could believe. And she says that in an interview inside the book, that she a little bit criticized the singer from the previous era, which I worship. I like a lot the singer from the previous before her. I don't like singers after her, but I like singers before her. But it may be true that maybe it's true that what she said and what the critics say, that she make the acting more realistic than the previous one, the previous generation to her, which was more artificially. What I don't agree is that to criticize that generation. I don't agree with that because you cannot say Mozart, hey, the acting of your singers is artificial, and you cannot complain on that. And this critic complains on that, but I don't complain on that. I think this way of acting that could be artificial, like Mario del Monaco, for example. I think he was a very great artist, but I cannot reject that kind of acting. I like it because it's part of the story of the opera, the history of the opera. The real opera is artificial. She made something different, and I clap her, and I think she was extraordinary for making something more realistic. But I love her acting, and I think it's even better. But I'm not gonna go against the previous one. She is a little bit criticized, the previous generation, and the critic also. But also she talks about, in this book she discusses about her technical approach. It will be of interest for people who is interested in vocal technique. She talks about how she prepared, the warm up and everything, very technical things about the voice training, how she trained during this program, during rehearsals and everything. This book is a big gem. As I said, if I have to summarize it, that she was not only a total artist, she integrated, put together singing with acting, and that's why she's so realistic. Other thing that is very important is that when you hear her, and that's something that I noticed very soon, is like the theatrical part of the opera is present in her singing. Is present in her singing. I mean, you can, when you hear her, it's like you don't see her acting, and she's not acting, but it's like if she was acting. I always have seen that, and these critics say the same, and it's fantastic. When I saw that in 2025, 2026, and he wrote that in the 80s, the 60s, in 1968, and this guy was present in. It looked like he was to 1,000 shows by her. And this critic was born in the late 20s in Germany, and I was born in Peru, in South America in the 1990, and I'm 36. But her art is so universal, so transversal that can get, if you have soul and you have some ear, it can get into your.
Öffne mir, mein Kind. Lösche dein Leben, lass sie löschen nur. Lass sie löschen nur. Löschet sie immerzu, geh heim zu Bett zur Ruhe. Gute Nacht, mein Knab. Gute Nacht, gute Nacht, gute Nacht, mein Knab.
Here you can see what I was telling you. Tell me that she convinced you, she's feeling the music, she understands what the music is about. And the way of her expression with her hands, her face, is perfectly synchronized with the music, the character of the music. She understands it better than no one. Because other singers just focus in sound, but they are not very convincible. They are boring, as the author of even if they are very famous name and some of the very, very high ranked historical, but she's way more than many people think. What people think about her is the 1% of what she was. What most of the people think is because they are focusing in her most visible side, that was television, but that was 1%, to be honest. She was an unparalleled artist. She was an unparalleled artist. I'm convinced. Because this book was written before her television era. So it's important to see how she was seen. It's completely different vision to the vision that people have today. And that's what I wanted to talk in this video. And I want to conclude with this song that I love, Ich bin verliebt by Nico Dostal, because Ich bin verliebt, it means I'm in love, and I'm in love of her art, and I wanted to conclude with this song.
Verliebt.